So at the time, did you think you're going to start as a publicist, or?
I kind of was that. I mean, when Quincy initially hired me, that's pretty much what I was there to do. You know, I was there to sort of blow up. He called me a pygmy stretcher. He said, "Go stretch some fucking pygmies, Edward." And
The hell?
that's Quincy parlance.
Okay.
Yeah, so he hired me to, as he said, "I'll make the music, you make the noise." And that was kind of what I did. So I was there to basically do PR, marketing, and sort of keep an eye on his interests at the record company. And I was floating around the A&M lot, and people looking at me like, "Who is this nigga? What's he doing here? What's he do?"
And this was for Quest Records?
No, Quincy Jones Productions.
Oh, this was
So was this like doing the sounds and stuff like that period, or Body Heat?
Body Heat. Yeah, he hired me.
Wow. Okay.
So are you the reason why he did a really random guest on Soul Train, like with the Brothers Johnson?
It's my brother playing drums. Yeah, my little brother playing drums. Yeah.
What?
Yeah, guys playing drums.
Oh my God. Oh my God. Oh.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. Now I feel, now I want to just stop
look
the
it up.
episode to watch it. That's great. Okay.
Yeah.
I'm going to concentrate. But I'm praying you give a long-ass answer because I'm looking for this damn episode.
Commercial break.
Right. So, like, what are your relationships like? Because I know now, for instance, like, there's former interns of mine at The Tonight Show that then intern at record labels. And maybe in a year or two, they'll figure out, okay, my A&R and my publicist, whatever. There's a system to go through. Are you going through a road less traveled, like in terms of publicity? Like, how do you know who to market Quincy Jones to? Like, do you know the people at People Magazine? Do you know if Rolling Stone's into them?
Yeah. It was, at that point, it was just pull out the gun and shoot where you may. You know, good luck,
Okay.
you know. So it was just at that point he had voluminous credits.
Okay.
And not a lot of hits. You know, and my job is to basically make those voluminous credits seem, as I used to say at the time, you'd say to people, "You know Quincy Jones? Yeah, I know the name. What can you? I have no idea. People didn't really know what to attach the name to, you know. And my job is to attach the name.
I wanted to know how potent he was pre Off the Wall in terms of like, the fear of like was. Because I know the idea of Quincy Jones, especially now, is definitely the post-thriller effect. And, you know, he's told me stories that even Off the Wall was a hard sell because, like,
they didn't want him.
You know, this guy's old, past his prime, whatever.
Yeah. Well, actually, the line was, they said, he'll make Michael sound like the Brothers Johnson. And Brothers were double platinum at that point.
Which was great.
And Mike was like, okay.
Right.
Yeah.
I see that.
Yeah.
So,
but in terms of the potency, I mean, obviously it was a build, because when he hired me, ostensibly, the short of the very long story is, I was there to do an interview with him about Body Heat. I got a call from the publicity department at A&M asking me would I be interested in talking to him about Body Heat. So I listened to the record, loved it, said I'd love to. And I had known him since I was a kid because he had conducted for my dad, and he had signed my dad. He'd made some of my dad's records at Mercury when he was head of A&R at Mercury. So we went. He told me to meet him at A&M because he was still doing his big band down at Disneyland. Disneyland used to do big band shows during the summer. He said, meet me at Disneyland. Meet him at A&M. Met him at A&M. Got on the band bus. Went down there. We sat backstage and talked for all night. He never did do the interview. So he come by the crib the next day. I did, and talked more for 12 more hours. Never did do the interview. Told me to come back Sunday and do it again. We did it again on Sunday, and I never did do the interview. And I realized after it was all said and done, while I was there to interview him, he was actually interviewing me.
you, right.
And the truth was, he explained to me something I came to realize years later. Quincy sheds skin every 7 years or so. He makes changes, overall changes in whatever he's working on. And he was about to he said to me, Body Heat was indicative of many things. He was moving away from the whole big band arrangement-y thing to a more rhythm section-based electronic R&B vibe. Modern, and as you said to me, he said, I feel like every day I'm going to film studios doing this big band conducting thing, but I'm going home at night listening to Stevie, Rufus and Shaka, Ohio Players, and Earth, Wind and Fire. And he said, I want to jump in those waters. And that's ostensibly what Body Heat was. And then, Body Heat was his first gold record.
It worked.
Mellow Madness was, first platinum record. First gold and platinum. And Brothers Johnson, Look Out for Number One, was also platinum. The first gold and platinum albums by black artists that A&M had. And he just, slowly built it from there,
It's crazy.
So, yep.
I found your brother, by the way.
Yep.
This is
Yep, there it is. That's
That's
Guy
it.
back there. That's my brother Guy.
That's dope.
Yeah.
yeah.
Cutie pie.
It's crazy.
Steve met Guy.
So, okay. So, what is your? How long did you stay with Quincy Jones?
I was there for 11 years, from 1973 to 1984. Yeah.
Wow. Okay. Who was the brain trust behind his branding? Like, I'd never seen someone have their logo on someone else's record before.
Yeah. He and I, he said he was like, I want my logo on there, you know, and so helped him fight for it.
But that's so unprecedented, though.
Yeah,
like, who knew to do that? Like, is that the first? What do you call the drop that every producer has? Like,
the first, like a producer tag.
Yeah, like is that
Maybach music?
Right, that's the first version of a producer tag.
But but seriously, I mean, if not to that extent, but no, it really was great branding because every time you saw that logo, you knew what the record was going to sound
right.
like. You, or at least for me as a kid, like reading that and seeing Quincy Jones Productions, like, okay, I know I'm getting Paulino DaCosta, Jerry Hayes. I know I'm getting
Lewis.
Rod Temperson. Right. You know what I mean? It was already just kind of a built-in selling.
The other thing we used to do, too, is when he was doing a new artist, I always say Quincy Jones Presents, you know, the Brothers Johnson or whatever, you know.
So this, at any point, do you sort of elevate past, like, doing this publicity to, like, actually working?
Yeah.
So, like, is this where Patty Austin's coming? Well, I know you work with Patty Austin.
Yeah, I did.
Okay, where it's weird. Like, I believe she's his goddaughter, or
But I'm his godson.
right.
Yeah,
That's how they sold her. I feel like forever, right? Like
right.
that
I
maybe say
thought,
Patty
like,
Austin, it'd be like
right.
Yeah.
So, how are you? Like, what was your first big responsibility?
Brothers Johnson.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay. So for those 4
Yeah,
albums,
I was there for 4 records from the first album through the Stomp album, Light Up the Night.
Light Up the Night.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Look Out for Number 1. What was the second record called?
Right on Time.
Right on Time. Oh God.
Blam and then,
worst beat of my life.
Yeah.
Well, because they jumped. Again, this is another impressible Americans in Trouble story. They were jumping on the album cover and the I guess the camera filter was over it. Right. And so I used to always go to my dad's bandmates and try jumping, and I jumped and dropped the dad's guitar players. And, yeah, boy. And talk about look out for number 1. Number 1 was the belt. So,
and you live to tell.
Yeah, man. Yeah. So, like, what were your duties in terms of their projects?
I was de facto manager. But
really?
Yeah.
Like project manager or like manager of the
product manager, product as well as artist manager. Just sort of connected the dots on his behalf because in the early days, the first 3 records, they were Quincy had a management company called Mellow Management, and it was he and I and a guy called Peter Long, and he was married to Loretta Long, yeah, exactly. And Peter was.
How long was he married to Loretta?
A long time.
He plays keyboards, right?
No. He was a stage manager at the Apollo, and he ran the Apollo kids. Luther came through there. Nile Rodgers came through there. Yeah.
So in Luther, the only authorized book. That's how I know the name.
Yeah.
Luther kind of speaks of how like wanting Peter Long's approval of like I guess Peter was sort of like the doting father that never gave.
He was very acerbic.
Right. And Luther always felt like no matter, he would sell out concerts. He was Luther Vandross. And finally, like maybe the Busy Body tour, the Night I Fell in Love tour, like Peter Long was like, all right, I'm proud of you. You did well for yourself. And like Luther like cried, like finally I made my dad proud, like that sort of thing. That's how I know Peter Long is.
Yeah, Peter was the responsible adult because during the course of the early period of my existence with Quincy, he would always bring in, because I was a kid, he hired me when I was 19, and he would always bring in a so-called responsible adult to kind of, balance me out, make sure I didn't get too buck. And Peter was that guy.
Okay.
Yeah.
So as a manager, and I'm so glad I'm interviewing someone who was a manager in the 70s. Were writers a thing?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So similar to now?
Ish, but yeah. But, now they're more pronounced. And in those days, it was primarily, the Black Promoters Consortium, so, if you tried that, I only want the red M&Ms, like, nigga, fuck.
Yo, I found out.
That sounds like something you would.
So I later found out from David Lee Roth that they weren't separating the green M&Ms. If you don't know, Van Halen was world famous for, was basically world famous for separating the brown M&Ms from the pile, and we thought that was the most arrogant rock star debaucherous shit ever. But we later discovered that
it was not true.
Yeah. Well, we later found out that the reason why Van Halen had that in their rider was because sometimes promoters would not read the riders at all.
Yeah, to see if you're paying attention to details. Or not.
Right. And so that was the thing. One more question about them. What happened in 1981 with the Winners record, and why didn't Quincy produce that album?
I was gone by then. I mean, I wasn't gone then. Guys wanted to. Quincy got tired of hearing, yeah, these records are great, but wait till you hear what we do when we get a chance to do it ourselves, And Quincy was like, okay, have fun with that.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, it's weird because it's not like they stopped working with Quincy. I mean, Lewis still
yeah, exactly.
was working with them. But in their mind, they're like, did they feel as though they wanted to get a more modern sound? Or
You thought they had graduated and were ready to get out on their own,
and y'all let that happen?
Can't control the people, man. Yeah.
Is this also a classic case of like, you got to let them find out on their own?
Yeah,
and
he did.
Get in their own way.
And also Quincy at that point was doing other stuff, so,
Oh, you
Mike.
think?
Yeah, Mike and his own records and so.